If I asked you which professions will play the biggest role in shaping the future, what would you say? Software engineers? Roboticists? Particle physicists? How about storytellers? That might seem an odd one to throw into the mix, because when we imagine the future, we tend to think of new inventions and discoveries. In short, the products of science, which seem a long way from the ancient art of spinning yarns. In reality, though, fiction has made a much bigger contribution to progress than we often realize, and its impact on the world we're building could be even greater. On the face of it, science and storytelling seem like polar opposites. One is built on verifiable facts, the other is a playground for make-believe. But the line between science and imagination is a bit blurrier than that. For one thing, scientific breakthroughs often depend on make-believe. At 16, Albert Einstein wondered what it would be like to chase a beam of light, a flight of fancy that eventually led him to revolutionize the world of physics. And just as storytellers don't have a monopoly on creativity, a passion for science isn't limited to those working in labs. For centuries, creative writers have been fascinated by scientific research, with many renowned figures even practicing it themselves and ultimately making it the basis of a whole genre. Science fiction, and it's here that the stream of influence starts to run both ways. Looking around, it's clear that technological innovations have transformed our world. But what's easy to miss is how many of those innovations began life not in the lab, but in the library. Mobile phones, email, voice assistants, VR, submarines, rockets, nuclear bombs, even antidepressants all appeared in works of fiction long before they became part of our lives. But those basic concepts, sketched out by novelists and screenwriters, came to serve as blueprints for technologically minded fans looking to close the gap between science fiction and science fact. And as bit by bit they've succeeded, the latest breakthroughs have inspired yet more works of fiction. This feedback loop has been a powerful driver of progress, but despite its success, the relationship is far from perfect. Because inspirational though movies and novels might be, works of art like these are much more than just extended product proposals. Fundamentally, stories, whether set in the far future or the distant past, seek to tell us something important about the present. And science fiction does this not by merely describing cool theoretical technologies, but by exploring their effects on individuals and societies, especially the problems they might cause. As author Frederick Cole once said, a good science fiction story should be able to predict not the automobile, but the traffic jam. Yet this dimension is the one that technopreneurs seem to give least thought. Take space travel, which first appeared in fiction in the 17th century, became a staple of sci-fi in the early 20th, and a reality soon after. Today, many assume that it will be a major part of our future, and one of those leading the charge, SpaceX founder Elon Musk, has frequently cited Frank Herbert's Dune novels as inspiration for his quest to colonize space. But while Dune does feature interstellar travel powered by inconceivably advanced technology, it's not just a catalogue of gadgetry ideas. Above all, it's a cautionary tale, a parable about the horror unleashed when a flawed individual gains too much power and is elevated by adoring followers to the position of a savior. Perhaps Musk ought to go back and read it again. To be fair though, maybe it's not surprising many engineers don't fully appreciate this aspect of sci-fi. Around the world, education is being pushed towards STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and maths, and away from art subjects like literature, which not only expose students to more works of imagination, but also teach how to engage with them on a deeper level. A few institutions, like MIT, are thinking along these lines, using sci-fi to teach engineers about the social impact of their creations. And some companies have also realized what they're missing, hiring sci-fi authors as consultants. But these are still rarities, which needs to change, because as both the capabilities of technology and its potential impact increase, failing to consider where it might take us could be very dangerous. It's natural that when we imagine the future, we think of the ways science will advance over the coming decades. But predicting how those advances will change the world means understanding their broader social context. And that's where works of science fiction could prove essential. It seems clear that in the years to come, we'll have no shortage of scientists and engineers pushing technological boundaries. But that alone isn't enough. we also need them to be more thoughtful readers and viewers in order to better appreciate the possibilities and perils, not just the practical applications that fiction invites us to imagine. Because if your takeaway from watching Star Wars is, hey, why don't we build a Death Star? Then something has gone very, very wrong.